Lucky you.
36 best holes in
Into
golf.
Alternate Shots podcast,
Barney's Army.
where we talk about
Sandy.
golf, poker,
James Bond.
horse racing,
Double.
classic movies.
Zenyatta.
We have no script.
Down the stretch they come.
We are glad you joined us.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
So, Billy Regan, welcome back. Guess who we have on the program today? None other than Mark Loomis, someone I've known since he was old enough to outdrive me at the age of 3 years old.
Welcome aboard, Mark. It's a pleasure to have you.
For a long time, I was the actual person producing the shows, but this is a much more of a management role that I started at the beginning of last year. So it's been a good transition.
So how connected is the Golf Channel stuff with NBC?
Very. Take for this week at Bay Hill or the Players Championship. They, the people who are producing the show for NBC are NBC Universal employees, and so are the Golf Channel people. And there's a ton of crossovers. Golf Channel moved to Stanford in the beginning of 2021, and I think part of that was to get Golf Channel and NBC to kind of work as one. So I think what you'll find here as we go forward is that people like Kurt Byron and Cara Banks and Damon Hack this week is doing interviews. Brad Faxon got hired this year to work on the NBC telecast, but he's also going to be doing live from next week at the Players. So it is I think we are evolving into it being much more of one place.
The impression comes across as that you are synchronized NBC and Golf Channel.
Yeah, I think the key to it is I think the people that you look for, and what I've found over the years is that the people that you want involved are people who are in the golf world day to day. So you take a guy like Brad, who is not only a great announcer but a great teacher, was a great player, and so what I would say is that Brad's day to day giving lessons to Rory McIlroy or Brandon Matthews or whoever he's working with keeps him in touch with what's going on with golf day to day. And then when they get on site, they know the golf courses for the most part. But so Brad knows he knows the golf course, but he's out there checking it out. What's it playing like this year? What are the differences? Where do what's the rough like? How firm are the greens? He was already up there on the putting green, on the practice tee, talking to the players, trying to get a good feel for how the course was going to play that week. So I would say the preparation never stops.
And well, what a story. God, what a story. If he had chipped that close on 18, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing about the designated events, non-designated events, is that I think what you're going to find this year, we'll see what happens with the schedule next year. I think that's still to be determined a little bit, but I think the non-designated event weeks, you're going to have great stories. First of all, you realize how deep they are, how deep it is. I mean, Chris Kirk's a pretty darn good player. And then you find guys like Eric Cole who are out there who might not kind of break through, but then he broke through last week. And then you know what? He's playing well this week. That I've learned over the years is when you do play well, you better play really well. And what I mean by that is you better finish in the top three, because if you finish 12th when you're playing really well, the weeks you're not gonna stick around. You got to cash in on your big ones. I'll tell you a perfect example of a guy who just kind of popped on the scene last week is Ryan Gerard. So Ryan Gerard just got out of North Carolina. He finished I think he finished fifth at Honda, and he's playing that top 10 finish. He had no status going to that. He Monday qualified. He was the last person in the field last week. Gets into Puerto Rico. And in the second round, he's in second place. So all of a sudden, for a guy who 10 days ago had no status on tour, had no, we'll call it avenue to get out there, is 2 days away from having a complete tour card. When you get your opportunities, you better take them. The good news is that the great players, the ones who end up making it, they usually take advantage of their opportunities in a hurry. Those you look at there's all sorts of stories of a Jordan Spieth who got a few sponsors exemptions. Next thing you know, he's out on tour, right? And that happens. Now there are also the Max Homas who go out there, lose their card, and they have to dig their way back up. But the great ones usually get it done quickly. how to rethink what direction we should go in. And one of the things that some of these smart younger people are doing is they've really pushed themselves in a social media world. Max, nobody better than Max Homa. And then he also understood that, and I tell you, from the TV side, we've been asking forever to do interviews on the golf course, but we never could get the tour to agree to it. But now people are thinking, hey, you know what? We need to make our product as appealing as possible, and this is a way to do it. So Max was the one who led the charge through the PGA Tour, and CBS, to their credit, got it on the air first. But now you're seeing it week to week. We had last week on NBC, we had Chesson Hadley on, we had Billy Horschel on. This week we're hoping to have somebody on. Next week we're hoping to have somebody. So it's something that's evolving. Now it's big events. To hear from somebody in the middle of the round is good. It's good.
And it gives people a chance to get to know, all you have is impressions of golfers and how to root for them. Listening to Chess Hadley, for instance, I became a fan. He was humorous, lighthearted. How long before you think drones will take over most of the, I know the union doesn't want to hear that, but.
I think we're a long way away from drones taking over. I think drones are a great addition to the golf coverage for sure. But it's not quite that easy. You can't follow a golf ball with a drone quite as well as you can follow it with a hard camera. I think Tommy's group at the Players Championship have done a great job at really bringing that course to life. I played there for the first time this fall. I hadn't played there. Well, I shouldn't say for the first time, but I hadn't played there in probably 30 years. And you kind of feel like you've already played it by how many times you've seen it on TV. It's a great experience.
It's, to me, as close as you can come to CBS and Augusta, because everybody does know the holes now. There's excitement in the second 9, whatever you want to call it.
And you can see more of the holes now at Augusta. They used to limit what you could show, right?
Yeah, for sure. They limit the amount of time on the air, so you saw a lot less. Yeah, but yeah, it's always been the question for do you for an event like the U.S. Open, where you can travel around the country and see different golf courses, is that a good thing, or do you like the familiarity of an Augusta? And I do think that's one of the real kind of charms of the Masters, is the fact that
same place every year.
Yeah, every hole. Yeah. We have chances to use people in smaller stages that then can work their way up. You take a guy like Smiley Kaufman, who a year ago wasn't even doing TV, and we used him on a featured group at the U.S. Open last year that very few people are listening to. You get a chance to go out there and talk for 5 hours because it's only about one group, and you find out quickly who can do it and who can't. And so Smiley, we started him there, and then next thing you know, he was doing a kind of a fall tour event, and we started, did a college event, and then you can make your way up. We're starting to use Johnson Wagner a lot over the last 2 months, a local guy, and he's been great.
Was Johnny Miller one of the first, shall we say, retired golfers to go into the booth?
Not really. I mean, Byron Nelson. I mean, when I first started at ABC, Jack Nicklaus was an analyst for us. But Johnny Miller kind of became the face of TV golf, in the 90s and the 2000s.
He wasn't afraid to say what it was on. Just came right out of his mouth.
He was different. I think when I got into TV, I think people were describing it, but they tried to do it in a nice way most of the time. I think Johnny just said what he thought.
Right.
And I think, I think it's a skill that's grown, and I think people are better and better at it, but he was at the front of it. He did an amazing job with it.
And he had a career that, could stand up to some of the remarks he was making.
Speaking of guys you worked with, who was a bigger influence on you in your career? Was it Brent Musburger or Keith Jackson?
Well, that's a good one, because two of the top for me. Brent, I would say Brent was really instrumental for me in that he was really the first guy of his stature who I got a chance to work with regularly, and he really was a champion of mine, kind of to make my way. I was his scorer in the booth when we started. I was basically his researcher, and I mean, he's the best. He nobody you would rather have a couple beers with than Brent. He was fun. When I was in college was when he was at CBS, and people heard different things about it. He was like an anchor monster, and I grew up watching him on Sundays. He was the NFL. That everyone watched that pregame show. And when I got he came over I started ABC in '90. I think he came over in '92, and basically he didn't know much about golf. And they said, Mark, he knows how to be an announcer. You teach him about golf. And he used to call me One Iron. I guess I was a little thinner back then. But we had a great.
That's a great
We
name.
had a great rapport. And I talk to him every once in a while still. I mean, I ended up doing basketball with him and Dick Vitale. I ended up being his producer about 10 years later on college basketball. But he really was great to hang out with. A ton of fun, and he had a huge impact on me. And then Keith was everything. Kind of my greatest, maybe my greatest honor in TV was getting to do his induction speech into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame. He asked me to introduce him for the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame. I started working with him when I was 32. And he was almost exactly the same age as my dad. And I think in some ways he treated me like a son. I mean, he was great to me. He was great to me. And a heck of a golfer. He shot his age every year from the age of 68, I think, to 83 or something like that.
Wow.
He was a heck of a golfer. That's how we got to be so close. We have it's a funny story about how at first event I produced with him, they had something called field turf in Nebraska, where they had just put in. It was a new artificial turf, and it was kind of made up of tire rubber. And I had heard Keith was a good golfer. I'd worked with him a couple years before, so I thought a cool way to show the tire rubber was to hit a golf ball from like the 40-yard line. We did that on Friday as we recorded. So I had Keith, who I knew was a good golfer, and Bob Greasy was also a good golfer with the two announcers. And I said, hey guys, why don't we go? You guys hit golf balls. We'll record it. We'll show it slow motion. It'll be fun. People get to see you hit a golf shot. So they both hit and they both missed from 40 yards. They missed the field goal. And I was like, yes, I thought you guys were good at golf. And they said, oh, let's see you do it. And I was able to do it. And Keith said, oh, you want to play golf next week out in California, and friendship from there. So
talk about your thoughts on these guys who made up this wonderful PGA tour and this larger golf game that we enjoy.
Yeah, I think it started with Arnold, the right guy at the right moment with when TV was coming to the forefront, and all of a sudden you had this guy who understood entertainment on top of being an incredible golfer. So Arnold was kind of at the forefront of golf on TV. And then Jack was a great foil, right? I think when he started, he got a lot of flack. People weren't happy to see this kid come up and beat their hero.
Like Roger Maris.
Yeah, exactly. It turned out Maris was Ruth, though. I mean, and then next thing you know, here comes Jack, and he was just, I think Jack didn't necessarily grab you with his personality on the golf course, but he just was so dominant. It was incredible, over the years. And I think people just, more than anything, just came to appreciate him. And so that, that he grabbed TV from there, but no one's grabbed TV like Tiger grabbed TV. I mean, when you watch, like if you go back to Genesis a couple weeks ago, there were almost 3 times as many people watching those events this year as opposed to when he doesn't play. There's really no one else in golf who moves, actually probably the person who's second on the list right now moving the needles, maybe Jordan Spieth, which is a little surprising, but he moves it a tiny bit, Rory a little bit too, but nobody has ever changed golf on TV like Tiger Woods did. And he made it, people who don't watch golf day to day, they go find Tiger Woods on TV. So that's been incredible. What's next? Hard to say. I mean, John Rahm is playing so great right now. He's been great, but I'm not sure that the American audience is going to latch onto him, like they would even a Jordan Spieth. So I think there's a little bit of a lull here. But the good news is that there are so many good young players that week to week, and especially actually these designated events have turned out pretty well in terms of having really good players on top of the leaderboard. So I think the interest in golf right now is good, despite the fact that they don't really have that star to latch onto.
Yes.
And they might turn into stars. It's early for some of them still.
Yeah, I mean, my son Ben's playing at Vanderbilt, and he's got a kid on his team who's a sophomore who just got an invite to the Masters. He's the first American amateur ever to get an invite to the Masters who didn't win kind of a specified event. He won the NCAA's, but that doesn't get you in. But you never know who that next guy is, and maybe it's Gordon Sargent. We'll see. So I've done both, and I would say that it was more fun to do college. I mean, I think when you're doing the NFL, I think when you're in my business in TV, the pinnacle is NFL football. If you're Fred Gaudelli and you produced 8 Super Bowls or whatever that number was at NBC and ABC, like that is the pinnacle of what we do. Going to a college campus on a Thursday, getting there on a Thursday afternoon and meeting with the home team coaches and players, and then going out to a local restaurant, just seeing the energy around it. And then Friday, getting ready for the game and seeing that, the parking lots filled with campers and people. And then you get there on game day and the parking lots are, full with people who are into it. And just the pageantry that goes along with college football, tough to beat. And, for me, my experience was incredible getting to work with Keith Jackson, Dan Fouts. And, the Rose Bowl, I did a bunch of Rose Bowls. That event, there's 2 events that I've done that are kind of at the top of the list: the Rose Bowl and the British Open, in terms of just the atmosphere. And when I say the British Open at St. Andrews, those 2 events are incredible. It's like they were made to be played. It's like Augusta. They were made to be played at those places. And college football bowl game at Pasadena doesn't get any better. And then a British Open at St. Andrews doesn't get any. It's not a movie. It doesn't always have the ending you're expecting. But yeah, Roy just didn't make any putts on Sunday. I actually walked around, because I'm not producing the shows. I had never actually walked around on the golf course during the event. And I met Rory on the 9th hole, and I walked 9, 10, and 11 with him, off to the side on the ropes. And just the amount of, I don't want to call it pressure, just the focus, I'll call it, on Rory that day was incredible. People were yelling his name every step he took. I wonder if after 4 days, just the weight of that got to be a lot. But he just, more than anything, the putts just didn't go in on Sunday.
Do you get feedback ever, negative or positive, from the players about, what's said on broadcasts or coverage or anything like that?
Yeah, the players themselves, I don't get feedback from. I get feedback in the locker room at Wingfoot more than anywhere. And
yeah, I can't wait to see it.
But no, I get the players actually, the announcers get a lot of feedback. I mean, when those announcers are out there walking around on Tuesday, Wednesday, or even Saturday, Sunday morning on the range, and if they have said something negative about a player, they hear about it. And it's not, it doesn't get heated, but they're like, oh, yeah, I guess you don't think I can putt, or I guess you don't like what I'm doing with my golf swing, whatever that is. They might not act like they're listening, but they hear it for sure.
If I'm the announcer, I think you just proved to me that I'm doing my job.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is that, like I said, I never worked with him, but everyone always said Johnny Miller never went to the range, right? I think he wanted to be a little bit removed.
He came in with a fake mustache and glasses and a hat. Yeah,
exactly. But I think not only did he, he just wanted to be a little bit removed, so that he just said what he thought was right. Exactly.
To take out Wingfoot's West and East, top 5 courses for you internationally.
I've always been a huge fan. I love St. Andrews. I think I just love I'm not telling you it's the greatest design golf course ever, because it was designed a long time ago. But you talk about a round of golf I'd like to play. St. Andrews is high on the list. Pebble Beach is high on the list. That's just a great experience. I love Pinehurst, number 2. I think that's a great golf course. Pine Valley is a great golf course, and then I'm a big Seminole fan as well. So those would be 5 that jump to the top of my head. But man, I just love playing golf. So I hate to only pick 5. I can probably keep going here for a while.
What's the toughest bunker shot at Winged Foot?
The toughest bunker shots is early in the round on the first hole on the West golf course. If you get pin high or above, going across that green is about as hard as it gets to try to get that right, unless the hole is in that little swale in the middle. Then it's not too bad. But a bunker that I don't want to be in, well, I don't ever, and I actually hit it in this bunker, and I was thinking this last year. I don't think I've been in this bunker in 10 years, but I hit it in the right bunker on 15 east, and I was like, what am I doing down here? I have missed that green
You
left.
get hurt down there.
I have missed that green left 100 times, but I have not missed that green right in a long time, and I was not happy with but I will not be back in there anytime soon.
Yeah, that's a very tough up and down.
Yeah.
Well, you had an easy club selection. You took your 56 or whatever. Billy and I are thinking, do we take a 9-iron? Do we take it? Because it's a long shot, right?
I'm thinking about taking a putter and going out the back side of the green and then trying to hit the wedge up on. What's the easiest par?
The
4.
easiest par at Winged Foot is
Par 4, yeah.
I would say I think the easiest hole is 1 east. I really do. I think that is I think that is a pretty,
I agree, and I think it's by design. It's sort of like welcome aboard. Get yourself a little warmed up because you got some surprises coming.
What do you think's the toughest green to putt at Winged Foot of all the 36 greens?
For Reed,
13, the first one that jumps out of my head, just as we think about it here, would be 13 east. I think is a brutally hard green to putt, and then 1 west. Just maybe just from the fact that it's your first couple putts of the day, and who knows what kind of putt. Nobody ever hits it hard enough going up the hill when they start. If they're on the front of the green, and if you're in the wrong part of the green and the hole is over on one of those ridges if you're on the wrong side, you're in trouble.
I find 15 east the hardest to read for some reason.
15 east is hard, no doubt about it, but there's a relatively few hole locations up there, so you kind of have a pretty good feel of where you are. Now that new back right, I mean, I've seen more people putt it off the green.
Yeah.
The back.
Which pro golfer, if you had a chance to play one round with a pro golfer, dead or alive, would you like to play golf with?
I would say either Lee. I'm gonna either or. I never played with Lee Trevino. I would have loved to have played golf with Lee Trevino. I loved the way he played golf. It was just fun to watch him play golf, and I loved the way Seve Ballesteros played golf. As you can tell, I probably, I like the way Seve played golf because unfortunately I hit it all over the place like he does, and I admired how he got out of it. And then. Lee Trevino, I don't think I've ever seen anybody control a golf ball. I used to actually, when I first got started in this, I very rarely would go out and watch golf. I'd be in the trucks, I'd be working. But when the one player that I did go watch, I would go watch Lee Trevino. If it was a windy day, I would go watch him play 9 holes. And it was so much fun to watch. And I would love to just talk to him about golf and how he thought about it, because as unconventional as it looked, I bet you that I feel like he understood how to hit a golf ball and how to make a golf ball move around maybe better than anybody.
Any thoughts on Winged Foot's next 100 years?
The one thing that you have to remember about Winged Foot when you talk about what a great club or whatever, when you really talk to people who know about golf, the first thing they say is probably the greatest golf experience in golf, right? So that's number one. It is a great 36 holes of golf, and you'll hear that from every top player who's come through there. And some people, there's 2 different perspectives. There's the perspective of the U.S. Open people who come through there and they see the golf course under U.S. Open conditions. But then you take a guy, Curtis Strange, I worked with for a long time, came through Winged Foot on a random Saturday. And played golf and went in the grill and then did like the 110 tasty that, would go out and play 1 and 10 East. And those people realize that it's not just a great US Open venue, but it's the day-to-day all-time great golf experience. And then beyond the golf experience, the experience in the grill room or Gio's or whatever, the people that are there on how much they love golf. If you love golf, Winged Foot is the place for you. So going forward over the next 100 years, we're in such a great place to be set up as the golf, as one of the top golf experiences in the country. There is so much interest in getting into Winged Foot, to playing at Winged Foot, to being part of Winged Foot, that I can only imagine great things for the next 100 years.
It'd be kind of nice to accumulate all the great athletes from Babe Ruth to Mickey Mantle and guys like that were kind of regulars at Winged Foot over the years, right?
Yeah, I used to see, speaking of sports, I used to see George Steinbrenner at Winged Foot sometimes. I heard him calling in the lineup from the men's grill one time. So anyone who says he wasn't, I can vouch for the fact that he was. So
You sure he wasn't firing Billy Martin?
No, I heard him. I heard him to go through the lineup. He wanted Oscar Gamble and right field. It was funny. It was funny.
This has been great, Mark. Thank you very, very much. It's awesome to hear the inside golf perspective from somebody who spent a lot of time at this and been influenced by a lot of people.
And don't be surprised if we get higher ratings than the Golf Channel with you on here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I please don't. But the one player that I did go watch, I would go watch Lee Trevino. If it was a windy day, I would go watch him play 9 holes. And it was so much fun to watch. And I would love to just talk to him about golf and how he thought about it, because as unconventional as it looked, I bet you that I feel like he understood how to hit a golf ball and how to make a golf ball move around maybe better than anybody.
Thanks for joining us today.
Billy Harmon.
We really appreciate your
Double
feedback.
Indemnity.
And please
Markey.
subscribe to the
Two
show
Outer.
and hit
Claude
the bell
Harmon.
icon so you get notified
Movie
of
Classics.
new episodes.
Mark Gable.
Hit them
My
hard
Job.
and hit them off.
Best 36 holes.